all of the villain contraptions were like some 3-layered thing. The only thing was missing in this movie compared to Batman is they didn't like walk away after they set it up.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never escape. I might as well leave the room.
Yeah,
like,
they at least stuck around to watch.
Right, yeah. Hello and welcome to Steam Powered Movies. I am one of your hosts. My name is Mike, and I am here in real person life with your other host.
You still sound like you're trying to convince the audience, like way too hard, that I am also here. And not just a brain in a tank.
You are here. You're a brain in some other kind of container.
Let's not go there. That's going to give me existential dread.
Okay.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Dana Fraedrich. I am a steampunk fantasy author, now suffering from existential dread. So, also, I found a new favorite sock company. I've started to include fun facts about myself in this intro. So,
what's your favorite sock company?
Oh, I don't know their name. I'm just wearing the socks right now.
Oh, okay.
But
great.
they're like athletic sports socks, and they have very snarky sayings on them. Like I have one that says, "I read banned books."
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good plug. They'll really appreciate that.
I'm sure they will.
Unnamed sock company.
Yeah, I know it's not Avenue Q or Q Avenue or whatever socks. It's not them. It's somebody
This
else.
episode brought to you by nobody.
It's a strong start.
Well, it's a strong start to what could be an interesting talk that we're going to have about that movie we just watched. An interesting film called The City of Lost Children.
Yes.
It was recommended to us by a listener. Thank you to Gregory LaFrenzen on Twitter and also in real life to Dana
Hello,
at
Greg.
a convention.
Thank you for the movie recce. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So listener recommended. If you have a movie you want to recommend to us that is a steampunk movie, guess what we do here? This is Steam Powered Movies. We watch a steampunk movie and then we talk about it. But
that's
first,
the whole show.
That's it. But first, before we get into discussing this intriguing film, we have just a few announcements for you. If you are listening to this at the very beginning of the month when this episode comes out, you can catch Dana at the River City Steampunk Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. That's going to be May 31st. Through June 2nd. I will maybe also be there for some period of time.
This is a big deal. Mike is never at these events. I'm usually flying solo. And honestly, like, it kind of sometimes feels like that. Like, oh, my boyfriend is from Canada. You wouldn't know him. Like, it feels like that sort of situation sometimes. Like, because I just have this, like, mythical husband that definitely exists, I swear.
I'm real. I will be there for some period of time.
You might see him.
Maybe come see me.
Like Sasquatch.
Slightly better looking.
Agree. Totally agree.
But also June 15th in York, Pennsylvania, Dana and not me will be at StellarCon. That's StellarCon in York, Pennsylvania on June 15th. And also, one way that you can recommend a film to us, you can do it on Twitter, like Gregory did, or you can join our Discord and make your recommendation there. We have a Discord. We want to chat with you. We want to talk about the films we've covered. We want to talk about all things steampunk and films and general whatever you have to talk about. The link to our Discord is in the description of this podcast. Check it out. Join us. We look forward to it.
It's also on my website. Like on the podcast page, there's a link to the Discord. So it lives there forever.
Yeah, that's at steampoweredmovies.com. So, Dana, we watched this film, The City of Lost Children.
Yes, we did.
It was released in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
It is rated R for one scene, I believe.
I think so.
It stars Ron Perlman, directed by Marc Caro, a French guy who basically did no other movies.
Oh, Mark, we're rooting for you.
Did you have any at all expectations coming into this film that was recommended to us?
I had no idea what I was getting into. Like, so we always write down our initial expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down, I know literally nothing about this movie, save that it might be bonkers.
Okay.
And so, like, by the title, I was thinking, like, maybe an Atlantis type of situation.
Interesting.
And then by, like, the movie cover, I thought maybe, like, an ancient lost civilization. So, like, similar thing. absolutely not.
Yeah.
So like what I interpreted on like the movie cover, I thought I saw like maybe like kind of native headdress kind of situation.
Interesting.
To be fair, I was not looking that closely because it was not at all that. It was like a bunch of like bulbs and wires and like volt conductor things
Right.
and whatnot.
Much more steampunk.
Way more steampunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I had absolutely no idea what to expect. And I was totally off base.
I was also very off base. I looked up this movie on IMDb and I saw the image that was on the IMDb page. I saw it starred Ron Perlman.
Mm-hmm.
And I read like the first sentence of the description and then I stopped because I didn't want any spoilers.
Sure.
I like going to movies completely spoiler free.
Same.
And what I got was that it was maybe some kind of fantasy world, but is broken somehow. But there's a quest for our main characters.
Okay.
And I was thinking, and this is where I was really off, maybe like Never Ending Story meets Willow with Hellboy vibes.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's very different.
I know.
Okay. I mean, it's a vibe,
Right.
but it's not what this film was.
I mean, the Hellboy vibes was probably the closest that I got.
I mean,
Just that it's like dark and gritty.
it
and
is. Yeah, I would say
that part of
gritty
it.
is accurate.
And it stars Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
That was the connection I made.
Sure. So we should maybe talk about what steampunk is.
Sure. For anyone who's just tuning in for the first time.
Yeah.
We talk about steampunk movies, and steampunk as a genre you would describe as what, Dana?
Basically Victorian sci-fi. You know, you're thinking not like spaceships from outer space, but maybe like airships. We're thinking, you know, kind of, as we said, gritty. We're thinking, you know, a lot of class issues.
Maybe things with gears.
A lot of gears.
Yeah.
A lot of like, you know, Tesla coils, stuff like that.
Some rivets and steel.
There you go.
Yeah.
There
We had
you
lots
go.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that in this film.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later, though. Okay, so you know how I've talked previously about begin as you mean to go on.
Okay.
They definitely did that.
Sure.
We open with like a child's dream and that then turns to a nightmare with like the world's creepiest Santas.
Yeah.
And then
multiple Santas appearing and
so
becoming more creepy and the
many
world
Santas.
warping and everything. Yeah.
It's okay. So we are currently beset by a plague of cicadas. And I'm going to liken
in Nashville, Tennessee.
in
yes.
Nashville, Tennessee. Like I'm telling you, y'all, it is biblical in proportion.
Yes.
They are horrifying.
Quite.
But I digress. So I kind of liken the Santas to the cicadas. Like one cicada is like a curiosity, you know, like, oh, that's interesting. It's the cicada. And maybe it's making a little like noise. But, and you know, one Santa, oh, hi, Santa. How you doing? You bring me any presents? However, an entire swarm of Santas, you might say a kringle of Santas.
Oh,
That is the collective noun for a group of Santas.
it is now.
In case you don't know.
It is absolutely now
So
a kringle of Santas.
when you are, you know, it's the same as when you're beset by an entire swarm of cicadas and you're like, oh God, I hate everything about this. And then you're beset by like a kringle of Santas. It's horrifying.
Yeah. So the beginning of this film definitely sets a tone.
Mm-hmm.
There was an element to this film that I was not expecting whatsoever.
Which element would that be, Mike?
It's so French.
It's so French.
It's extremely French. All of the dialogue is in French.
Uh-huh.
There is not very much dialogue.
No, not really.
And
It's all it's very to the point. We do not spend a lot of time just getting into how you say the exposition, except for like one big story at the beginning, and then you learn about the history of the bad guy.
yeah, like, by the way, excellent accent.
I know, I nailed it. Always nailing it.
Incredible.
I know.
Yeah, about 20 to 25 minutes in, there is one scene where the brain in a fish tank sets out the exposition for the entire film.
That's not a euphemism, folks. That's a literal brain in a fish tank having a conversation.
There's a brain in a fish tank, and he tells you the setup to the movie about this scientist who couldn't dream and created clones and created a wife.
But he wasn't the one who did it.
Oh, you're right.
I know.
Yeah, there's a twist.
Uh-huh.
There's a twist.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you get one scene of exposition and then like very little dialogue and like a bunch of stuff happens.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff happens. Before we get too much into the plot or whatever, like this movie was recommended to us because it's a steampunk movie.
Yes. And I will say,
why is it steampunk?
I mean, the aesthetics are all on point. Like,
yeah.
Everything in this film is like just pushed up to 11 on the steampunk dials. Like all the aesthetics, all of the outfits.
You got a dystopian world.
Yeah, dystopian world, which I have questions about. We'll get to that.
Not answered in the film.
Oh no, not in the least. I will say the only thing I would say is not steampunk about it is like the apparel. It's very like, I don't know, kind of stereotypical French apparel.
Yeah.
You're thinking like,
got, like,
berets.
Sweaters and
yeah, like striped
berets.
sweaters, berets, and then like perfectly coiled, like curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking like everyone's hair's perfect, even after coming out of like the bay or even after like going through something harrowing, like suddenly our hair is perfect.
By bay, you mean green water?
Yes,
yeah.
Precisely. Though I have to say, the sets were incredible. It reminded me of, if you've ever been to Universal Studios or what's the other one? Disney World, obviously. If you've ever been to either of those and been in like that very immersive kind of area where like they want you to feel like you are on Main Street, USA, or like you are inside of Hogsmeade or Diagon Alley, any of those.
Sure.
That's how this movie set felt. Like it wasn't CGI. They built all of these things. And it was very like layer upon layer upon layer of like, this is some kind of like a close city situation. Like people are all in each other's pockets.
Yeah.
I really liked the vibe.
It's quite claustrophobic, yeah.
I mean, that's what a city is. Like what a big city.
But it was like, yeah, but like you said, it was some sort of very, very tight city.
I like it.
Structure. You had a lot of like staircases and bridges and houses right on top of the streets.
I love that vibe.
I would not want to live there.
No, I wouldn't want to live there. But like, I love that in a story.
Like, not even New York is that cramped.
No, that's true.
It
it's
was
like
so crowded.
A lot of New York is very like streets, and then you have the buildings.
Right.
But like, I think in a lot like much, much older cities that have just sort of like grown organically and grown on top of itself, you'll get a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a book series by Angie Sage called the Septimus Heap series. And there's an area called the Castle, which is very much this, where it's just like, you know, this old stone structure that's kind of like built on top of itself and evolved over time. And like all of these people have just sort of found niches for each other and for themselves. And it has very much the same vibe, and I absolutely love it.
And there's like water under everything.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So it's almost like Venice.
I was thinking that. I was thinking kind of Venice vibes, but like dystopia, dark, dank, underworld, nobody's happy kind of Venice. Yeah.
There's some like pickpockets on the streets. You've got like, what do they call them? The strongman from the fair, but it's kind of just like a fair that's like just hanging out like in the alleys and
there were like 3 exhibits in this fair.
Right.
You had the cult of blindness, you had the strong man, and then like something else on the side maybe.
Well, that was really interesting because I feel like you can kind of tell the budget of a film like this, but also I feel like they used their budget really well because yes, there were only like 3 exhibits in this fun fair. But they were like, yeah, we're going all in. Like, we're all in like this little street. It's like some kind of like, not a main avenue at all, but kind of like a little back alley situation.
Yeah.
And they're like, they
like
made
a few
you feel
alleys
like you were there in the crowd.
Like a few alleys intersect into this one little like courtyard.
Yeah.
And that's where this little fair is happening.
And I never felt as I was watching that part of the movie, like, oh, I feel like I'm sort of floating above, like I was in the crowd, like you're up close to people's faces. So that was pretty cool. I actually liked that.
Yeah, the camera work was a lot of like really up close stuff. A lot of handheld, like you're in the crowd, you're in someone's face. It really puts you in the scenarios.
Yeah.
Which I think makes this movie a little more like immersive than it would be otherwise.
Oh no, I totally agree.
the blindness cult brings us to one of the other very steampunk
Oh
elements.
my gosh, like the little like Cyclops eye
Yeah.
doohickeys.
And they had the like mechanized hearing, like the
Yeah.
hearing gun that was attached to their ears.
Yeah.
Where they were really picking up on little sounds because they had gouged their eyes out.
Yeah, like what a wild mechanic. Like they didn't like come to this through war. Like they chose to do this through this crazy cult situation.
Which wasn't really explained why.
No, okay.
There was a scene where you had a whole bunch of them in a room
Mhm.
and this guy was like preaching.
Yeah.
I mean, which I noticed the guy preaching had his eyes. Like he had not gouged his eyes out.
Well. How very interesting.
Yes.
That perhaps the leader of this pack is maybe not being the most faithful.
Right. Like he still had the mechanical augmentations, but he also still had his real eyes and could see things, but was telling all these other people to give up their sight and join the cult of darkness or whatever they were for some odd reason.
I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. We never saw through his eyes because we did see through the eyes of some of the other cult members, for lack of a better word.
Right.
We never saw through his eyes. So maybe he did, and it just like his eye just didn't look like it had any issues or whatever. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was well. I will say that is sort of kind of a thing that I was left with questions about as I watched this. Because, okay, first of all, like it did take me a couple of minutes to kind of come to grips with the just like extreme Frenchness of this film.
People, it is so French.
And then I just sort of like let the vibes roll over me.
Yeah.
And so like after that, I was like, okay, I'm here for this. This is an experience. Let's go. But then like I did have questions about the world. Like there doesn't seem to be any kind of law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. It just feels like this is almost like an island where like everyone is just sort of governing themselves. Like they've sort of built a society out of whatever scraps they can find. And this is the way things function. Because like the cult is just sort of just being there. Like they don't seem to have any aspirations besides getting more members.
Right.
Like they're not trying to like appeal to like a governmental body or anything. They're just like, we're here, we're a cult.
Yeah, there seem to be just like a few factions, at least that we meet in this film. We meet Ron Perlman because he's the strong man in the circus with his, I guess, father is the guy that is hyping him up.
Something like that.
And then his little brother, Donry, or whatever his name was.
I could never keep track of his name.
It started with a D.
It did.
And it had ended with an
Little
E.
brother.
Little brother, yeah. So he and his father figure and his little brother, and they were like a circus act. And then you had the blindness cult, which also was there at the fair. Then you have the street urchins, who all report to the twin sisters.
Well, they don't so much report. Is like it seems like they kind of she's kind of running like a protection racket. Like, sure would be a shame if you died. Better bring me those goods so you don't.
Right, but yeah, it seems like they're sort of like street pimps for these street pickpocket groups of little children.
Is pimp the right word?
It seemed like the right word to me.
I feel like she's more like the fence. Like, you give me stuff, I give you money.
Yeah, but again, she's very much seemed in charge of them and threatening them.
Oh, no, for real. Again, protection racket.
Yeah.
Like a very close-knit protection racket.
And then on the island, this oil rig island out past the minefield, you have the scientist or like the old man who can't dream and his clones. And the brain in a fish tank. And his
name was Irvin, I believe.
Irvin is the brain in the tank.
I wrote it down. Irving.
And his wife, who is not but knee high, as described.
She's a little person.
Yeah.
And
so those are kind of like all the players in this little town.
Like random oil rig island with a bunch of mines around it. No one seems to be doing anything about that.
No.
It's just like, yep, they're out there. Who even knows?
Yeah. And I guess the inciting thing is that children have been going missing.
Yeah.
and everyone kind of plays a part in it a little bit. Like maybe some of the children are part of the street urchin gang that go missing, and it's the blindness cult people who are stealing them and then selling them to the oil rig science commune.
Yeah.
And so everyone's sort of involved in this, and we kick off the story because Ron Perlman's little brother gets taken by the blindness cult people, and he recognizes the truck with the eye on it and starts trying to like track them down.
Which I do have to say, their initial method for trying to lure the children is kind of amazing because it's literally just like a caramel apple on a string.
Right.
Like you're just gonna like fish for the child and then like pull it through the window. It's like, okay, that is a method.
Or like if the apple goes missing, then you're like, I guess there's a child in there. We'll go in and get him.
Right. No chance that it's, I don't know, a dog that likes caramel apples.
There are several dogs in this movie.
There's so many dogs.
Yeah.
I was happy about that.
Yeah. They're all good boys, of course.
And obviously. And then the guy who was mean to the dogs got his comeuppance, so that was nice.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that we learned at some point there was that guy, Marcello, who trained fleas to poison people.
He had like a little flea circus.
Yeah. And that the twin sisters who share a foot, that they're conjoined twins, but just by one foot.
Right.
That they used to be part of his circus act.
Yeah.
So I think the main economy in this city is the circus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like various entertainments.
Yeah.
Sideshows, things like that.
Right. And kidnapping.
I will say Marcellus is the most French character in this. He smokes a cigarette and he regrets his life choices. He has a dog and a flea and he plays the hurdy-gurdy.
He does play the hurdy-gurdy.
And then he also gets a sex worker to try and seduce Ron Perlman.
Yes.
Who then she seems very frustrated when she fails.
Right.
Which that was actually a really funny part.
It was.
She's so annoyed. She's like, look, I am trying to make a buck and this is just not going well. Like we've all had days like that. I feel you, girl.
Oh man. So many weird things. I think I might say that the most French part of this movie
there are so many
is that the children in this film, or at least like the street urchins that are like, I don't know, 8 to 10, are so adult.
Oh my gosh. Like, honestly, the street urchin gang, I want them at my back in a scrape. They would get me through with flying colors. Because like Miette is savage AF.
Oh, yeah. Like the street urchin children are the most mature people in this entire film.
And they have such a skill set. One of them is operating heavy machinery. Like, I think one of them was helping, like, pick a lock or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Oh, I wrote down in my notes, kids are smarter than all adults.
Agree.
And there's a quote from the film that I feel like describes this whole vibe, too. He's big, but not grown up. Was when Miette was describing Ron Perlman's character, whose name is One.
Yeah.
One is his name. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if like there's some kind of like arrested development situation there or just what.
Perhaps, but
yeah,
he's a big kid.
Kinda, yeah.
And it made for a little bit of a weird dynamic in the relationship between him and Miette. I felt like she was portrayed in this film, and kudos to the actor, the child actor who played this part.
Oh, she was incredible.
Amazing. Like the only time I've ever seen in the film, basically like a film noir played by a 10-year-old.
Very hardened by life.
Yeah.
Has no time for your nonsense.
Exactly.
She's got work to do.
Right.
So like either like get in line or move along. Like get out of her way.
Right.
No, I adore her so much.
One of the best acting performances I've from a child.
Oh my gosh.
Top tier.
That honestly, it might be the best I've ever seen from a child. Because to be honest, like, you know, kids today don't have a lot of the experience.
Easily.
A lot of kid actors, not so great. But like, I was completely sold. I was like, yep, she is Miette. She's a street urchin and she's just like doing what she's got to do for her gang.
Like, what is France doing to their children that they're so mature? I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Are you okay, France?
Yeah. But like, it was really, really strange to have a child character carry so much of the like weight.
I felt like she was the main character. Like, I know Ron Perlman's meant to be the star, but like, I kind of feel like she was it.
I kind of agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's top billed, but she was, to me, the main character and carried the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that, man, this film was so weird.
Yeah. You kind of just have to roll with it.
Yeah, and it being all in French and subtitled just kind of like, I mean, I can deal with subtitles. It just creates a whole other layer of having to like go along with
Right.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
I do have to say, and this is a confession, I apologize. I hugely misunderestimated Ron Perlman. And I said to you at the beginning, I was like, oh, if Ron Perlman's in it, it's probably not going to be in French, because I completely made an assumption in my head that like Ron Perlman, who I've always seen portrayed in kind of like a big, gruff, kind of like
meathead
character.
kind of character.
Meathead character. Absolutely. Yeah. I was like, he doesn't know French. He absolutely knows French. So that's my bad. I completely just like made an assumption based on like the few roles that I have seen him in, that like, honestly, he wasn't like that good an actor and like didn't have that many talents. And that's on me. That's totally on me for making an assumption. I looked at his bio. He's classically trained. He's done loads of like stage work and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he's got such a depth of talent that I did not realize. That's my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ron Perlman.
This movie we've talked a bit about like the setup of the world. The plot is kind of simple. It's that whole like the kids are being kidnapped and Ron Perlman's sort of trying to find his little brother, like uncovers the kidnapping plot, and they run into this diver character who is the original clone.
Okay, you say it's a simple plot, but honestly, like the threads and the way they intertwine is actually really interesting. Like, I found myself kind of glomming on to all of these different pieces that were working in tandem, almost like gears, but I honestly am like kind of impressed with the plot. Like, is it the most complex and rich world building? No, it's not. But as far as like the events and all the different moving pieces, it's really interesting.
I mean, a lot happens.
And
there are so many little like side things
and like little mentions that pay off later.
Yeah, like we talked about, Marcello, he trained fleas that will inject people with this poison, and then he plays the hurdy-gurdy and they attack people.
Yeah.
Like this weird thing. There's the minefield, and they have to find the guy with the map of the minefield on his head.
Right,
he's
tattooed. A tattooist.
Although the mines, when they went by them, they were all floating. Did you need a map for that?
I don't know. I don't know how mines work, to be honest. Like nautical mines, I don't know.
There was the whole Rube Goldberg ending.
Oh, that
started
was
by a
wild.
tear from Miette.
Yeah.
That was bizarre.
That wasn't the only kind of Rube Goldberg machine sort of thing in the film. Because when they were going for the key, which I laughed at this.
Oh, I wrote that down. That was one of my favorite parts.
They sort of grate a block of cheese and then blow it under the door, which I was like, of course they have cheese. They're French.
It's Parmesan.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on.
Look, it's cheese. They're French. They're obviously going to have cheese.
But it was clearly Parmesan.
And which I have to say, because when I saw the setup, I was like, oh, I've seen this trick. Like, you put a piece of paper under the door, you poke the key through, the key lands on the piece of paper, and then you just pull the piece of paper back.
Right.
No. We're not going to go do something so simple.
No.
We're going to have a complicated plan where there's like a mouse with a magnet tied to its tail.
Yep.
We send it through. It goes after the cheese. Then we send a cat. I don't know where we got the cat or the mouse,
right.
But here we are. And then the cat scares the mouse. It comes back. It doesn't just like freak out. It definitely follows like this prescribed path and then brings us the key, which has stuck to the magnet.
It was incredible.
We assume the key is made of a ferrous metal.
Again, the kids in this movie are smarter than all of the adults. They came up with this plan and it worked perfectly.
That is the credit that I must give them, is like, I guess they knew all the different factors in play.
They did. They knew that it was going to work because they know their mice, cheese, key, cat Rube Goldberg thing. Yeah.
I honestly can't decide if this movie would be amazing or terrifying to watch high. Like if you just had a gummy and you just watched this, I genuinely don't know.
I mean, I got a bit tipsy while we were watching it, and
Yeah.
it was quite enthralling. Yeah. The poisoning method was quite elaborate as well.
Which one?
The thing with the fleas,
Yeah.
because
Like I'll attach like a tiny nozzle to like the mouth of a flea, and then the flea will ride the dog, and the dog will go find the target.
right, and then jump onto the target's head, and then attach to the target, but then not release the poison until the hurdy-gurdy machine starts playing.
Right.
And then the person goes crazy and just like attacks whoever they're near.
Uh-huh.
Because that's how this poisoning works. It's just like, just be American and bring a gun. Like, why do you have to do all this
Mike,
stuff?
Absolutely not. They are French. They are not going to be American about this.
Oh, I know.
But also, like, one more, like the plan with the pier. Like, we're not just going to tie them up and throw them into the pier
you're
to
right.
drown. We'll do like this complicated
Oh my
thing where like
goodness, you're
they're
right.
standing on planks. At the end of a plank is a barrel. It's full of fish. We like uncover the fish, and then the seagulls will come and they'll eat the fish slowly. And then so the weight of the barrel will slowly decrease. And then as
Yep.
that happens,
Yep.
the plank will tip, and then they'll eventually fall in the water. Like, what an insanely complicated plan.
This reminds me of like the live action Batman series from the 60s.
Oh my
like with
gosh.
Adam West.
Yeah.
Like that was all of the villain contraptions were like some 3-layered thing. The only thing that was missing in this movie compared to Batman is they didn't like walk away after they set it up.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never escape. I might as well leave the room.
Yeah,
Like,
they at least stuck around to watch.
right. Yeah. It was, it's so complicated.
It is kind of incredible, like because they clearly whoever like wrote all the different screenplay and things for this film, they really love a complicated plot.
Yeah. Man, like they again, not much dialogue, but so many like visual things happened. It was kind of wild. Man.
I will say there is something that did really take me out of the world.
Okay.
So when we were, I think it was in Marcellus's area,
Okay.
and he was like sleeping or something, and there was like that little like kind of festoon of, oh no, it wasn't. It was in the submarine with the diver guy.
Yes.
Yes. So we had loads of like little knickknacks and things.
Mhm.
There was like a container of like Pall Mall cigarettes, which then means that like the Pall Mall company exists in this world. Also, Santa exists in this world, but like I can kind of forgive the Santa. Santa's kind of an eternal character.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so like the Pall Mall cigarette company exists in this world. Somehow it's like come up, and it just like completely took me out of it. It's like we could have Greeked that, okay? We could
Yeah.
have made it any cigarette brand.
You know what? Didn't notice.
I totally did.
Yeah. A couple of things I thought were funny. The funnier moments to me. Near the very beginning, this old man who can't dream, that's why he's stealing children and trying to like inhabit their dreams.
Yeah.
The clones are all made to come in and describe a dream to him.
Right.
I thought that was a really funny scene because it was just completely off the wall and bizarre, just like it would be if you tried to describe a dream to someone.
Right.
And they just kind of took turns like coming in and making up bizarre details. I'm assuming they're just making it up. Yeah.
Oh, no, I agree. But also, like, I don't know if you experienced this. When someone describes a dream to me in real life,
Mhm.
I usually find it very boring.
Oh, yeah.
There's basically like no point.
No, and even I mean, I've tried to describe weird dreams I've had to you.
Yeah.
And I know as I'm telling them to you, they make no sense.
Yeah.
And you are bored because I can't even figure out what it was that I dreamed.
Like unless it's like a classic anxiety dream, which is different because that's a very relatable experience.
Right.
But like if it's just like, yeah, and then suddenly I was flying and there was a goose, who even knows? Like this is a load of nonsense. Like I find it very boring. But I did find it really funny when the guy who couldn't dream was like, why do the children all have nightmares? Trauma. That's why. Because of trauma.
Right. Also, you're pretty scary.
Yeah.
And
Like-
you kidnapped them.
You put them in like a glass sarcophagus and put this like crazy thing on their head, pretty sure they're going to have nightmares related to that.
I think one of my other funniest moments I thought was near the end when I think it was the small lady character who was like, "Are you men or not?" And they were like, "No." All the clones were like, "No, we're not men."
But also, like, I kind of love how the clones all have like full costume changes for their various jobs.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They don't have like just like a simple all-purpose like workman's uniform. Like, you know, when they're doing mealtime, like they're in like a chef's outfit or like a waiter's outfit. Like they take the time to change into the appropriate outfit. I just find this very funny.
That is pretty good, yeah.
Like, okay, we have to have this whole theatricality element on our like tiny oil rig island. It just makes me feel better, okay? It's a funny thing.
They went full Oompa Loompa, yeah.
Kind of. In a way, yeah.
That definitely reminded me of
Although
that.
the Oompa Loompas, like, they all always had like the same overalls.
Mm.
Whereas like these guys are like, okay, there's like a costume closet somewhere on this rig. And like they've got all of their uniforms for their various jobs.
Speaking of costumes, another funny scene was, of course, you got a big, strong guy like Ron Perlman. You got to have him go shirtless. So,
oh, that's what that was. I was like, this is a weird scene. Okay, I mean,
the thing
I get
where
it.
he gives the thread of his sweater to Miette, and she goes into the air ducts or whatever, and then it like pulls at the thread and makes his sweater disappear.
Yeah, which that's a really fun mechanic as well.
Yeah,
like I feel like in D&D, I would be like, okay, how many yards of thread or like yards of yarn is in a sweater? I'd be like trying to do that calculation.
And he
like,
does run out too.
He does, yeah.
It runs out. So like the plan kind of fails as far as being
Which is
able
really
to.
funny.
Yeah.
For anyone who's ever like knit or crocheted anything, it's like, the freaking yarn.
Yeah. And then the end of the film, it just gets weird in French. You get the original clone coming back and like laughing maniacally and blowing everything up.
He just goes like a little bit like on a bender.
He goes just totally crazy. You have like the weird dream sequence at the end where there's like the age swap where like Miette and the old guy in the dream like switch ages.
I mean, I get it. She's sacrificing herself and that's kind of what's necessary.
But doesn't?
We don't know why. We don't know why like mechanically it actually has to happen that way. That's just
and
narratively.
Then someone says like the void equals infinity.
Yeah.
Like it just gets weird and existential at the end and there's no explanation, but it's kind of appropriate for this weird, bizarre French sci-fi steampunk film.
Yeah. I will say, okay, so there were things about the little brother character. And you know, Mike.
Right. He's sort of a MacGuffin, though.
Okay,
he's sort of like the
MacGuffin.
MacGuffin of the film.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, I'm not a kid person. I don't really like children.
Really?
Stop. So there are things about little brother who like the burp is not cute. Like that's not adorable. Like I know there are a lot of people out there, and I don't like hold this against you.
But it's one of his two character traits.
He burped. No, I'm getting to that.
I know.
Let me finish. So like a lot of people probably saw that and was like, oh, that's so funny. I'm so annoyed by it. Like I don't like it at all. However, like the fact that this kid is basically just like biting and hunger.
Yeah.
That's a vibe. I feel that down in my soul.
He eats everything within arm's reach.
Oh, I'm pretty sure this kid has pica because like he's eating cherries and he's like, yeah, these cherries are good. And then he like picks up a candle, bites it, makes a horrible face, and then goes in for another chomp.
I wrote down my notes, a young Brad Pitt. He's always eating in the film.
I mean, kind of. Although Brad Pitt, like he'd moved beyond candles.
Well, yeah, you're right. But
so yeah, I did kind of think that was funny.
Yeah, no, that was his best character trait.
Like
was
he's
eating
just,
everything.
he just wants to snack.
Even at the end when they're trying to escape the thing that's about to explode, the oil rig, and Ron Perlman finds him in a side room, like eating a snack. He's like, come on, let's go.
Right. Like we're all trying to escape. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Annoying little brother.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? Little brother's annoying, you know?
I'll take your word for it. I never had any.
Well, we did that.
We did that. We watched that movie. And I will say, now that I've watched it, I remember seeing it on some of those lists and stuff that we've looked up for like, you know, the 10 best steampunk movies or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
which I think all of those lists were even like, this film is insane.
You know what? I was told before watching this that it was kind of a bonkers film.
Yeah.
Wasn't ready for the level of bonkers.
I mean, it's very French.
I was not told it
Warning,
was French.
this film is French.
If I had known.
Yeah.
If I had only known. Okay, so after we watch these movies and we talk about it, we give it some ratings.
Indeed.
The first one is, how steampunk is this film, Dana? On a scale from 1 to 5 steam engines, how steampunk?
Oh, 5 of 5. No cap.
Yeah?
Indeed.
Okay.
Like 5 fully glutted stars.
All right. By stars, you mean steam engines.
Steam engines. Yes. Fully fed, coal-ready steam engines.
Full of coal.
Yes.
Burning hot.
Yep.
Full capacity.
Yeah.
Steaming it down the track.
That's right. At 88 miles per hour.
At least 88 miles an hour.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. I mean, there was no airships, but the rest of it was.
Oh, you didn't need airships when like every inch of this movie is like gears and levers and crazy contraptions.
Yeah, and like diver suits and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah, it's very like ground bound
Yes.
kind of tale. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You don't even see the sky, I don't think, ever.
I mean, maybe vaguely.
Yeah, maybe in like the background of the oil rig
Yeah.
set is like, but like when you're in the city, there is no sky.
As you said,
It's
it's
just
very
buildings.
close. All the camera work is very like just with the characters wherever they're at.
Yeah, totally agree. 5 out of 5 steam engines. And then we also will rate this film, not based on any hoity-toity film review sort of concepts, but just how much did we enjoy it? On a scale of 1 to 5 gears, Dana, how much did you enjoy watching The City of Lost Children?
Oh, this is honestly, this might be one of the hardest ratings I've ever done because
Yeah, I ask you and I still have no idea what my rating is, but you go first.
okay, so like it's a ride. Like I said, I did take an adjustment period where I was like, "Whoo, it's French. It's so French." So, but like once I was past that, like, okay, I'm here. I understand like what I'm in for. I actually I did enjoy it. I'm gonna give it like 3.5 out of 4.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good then.
Yeah. Like we've watched some movies for this podcast that I have enjoyed way less,
Yeah.
that like probably had way bigger budgets. So good job, City of Lost Children.
And for me, I rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 top hats.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking as you were talking, and before you even said it, I was thinking like 3.5.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sort of a similar experience. Like the first 10, 15 minutes was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Like, what are we in for?
What have I gotten myself into? But then the story gets going and you have all these little side pieces and they all fit together.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go with it into maniacal laughter and explosions at the end. And you're
Essentially.
like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And the very adult child actor performances and Ron Perlman doing some French. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got to give it 3.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
We enjoyed this bonkers film, so I guess we recommend watching it if you're into steampunk and stuff that's a little off the beaten path.
It really is, though.
But be ready. It's
Yeah.
so French.
I mean, we had a couple of drinks. We had some snacks. It was a good time.
It was a good time. And we hope you had a good time listening. And if you're listening and have any recommendations for us, definitely hit us up. We're on Twitter at SteamPoweredPod. We're on Instagram and Threads at SteamPoweredMovies. You can go to SteamPoweredMovies.com to see the full list of episodes and more information. We also want to hang out with you in our Discord. You can hit the link to that in the description of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. We hope to talk to you again next month for another episode. Thanks again. Okay, bye.
Au revoir.